So next up is the hip. I'm going to use these dowels. Yes, they will assist me in balance, but they will also help me with my irradiation. I'm going to reach them out fairly far away from me so that I have room to move my hip through its full rotational journey. And your hip is also a ball and socket joint, like your shoulder. So it will circumduct and create that bigger kind of circular movement, taking your femur and your knee and your foot and the lower leg on a bit of a journey, but it also rotates inward and outward. So we have that sort of pivoty piece as well. So keeping in mind, we want to explore every possible joint position and angle with these movements. So I'm going to try to exaggerate this piece in there as I move through that range of motion. So dowels are out. I've got outstretched arms. I'm going to press into the dowel. I'm going to actively engage my standing leg. In this case, it's going to be my left foot. So I'm going to lengthen those toes, press that foot into the ground, taking on a really nice solid single leg stance. And I'm going to start by internally rotating that right femur. So if I had an X in the center of my thigh bone, I'm going to rotate it inwards, whatever that means to you. Internal rotation is often quite sticky, so your internal rotation might not look like mine, and that's okay. Whatever you've got, use it. All right, so from here, I'm going to keep that internal rotation as I start to sweep up in front of me. Notice I'm also coming across my midline, and then I'm going to come into maximal flexion, keeping that knee high. Keep yourself tall. Sweep that knee out to the side, and as I come out to the side, I can come back into a bit of rotation, keeping that knee as high as I can. It's moving out to the side, starting to come into extension. Keep it as high as you can. Oh, this is work. And keeping yourself nice and tall all the way back through. So from here, I'm going to squeeze that femur back behind me, keeping myself tall, pressure into the sticks. I'm going to sweep that knee up, out to the side. Externally rotating, bringing that foot through. Now I'm in external rotation. Pass midline, keep your knee high, woo, and all the way through. All right. I'll show you from the side. So my cheats that I'm trying to pay attention to are tilting or tipping with my trunk. So I'm using my sticks for a little bit of balance, but also they can kind of tell me, I could even see in my demonstration how the sticks were losing their vertical nature. You can also do this if you had a nice pillar or a squat rack. You can kind of anchor yourself and affix yourself against that pillar, and then you'll feel yourself potentially leaning, and it'll constrain you from leaning. That's a great way to kind of anchor and press into something while monitoring yourself for any of that sort of wavering. The other piece that might compensate is I might kind of hike my hip and shift my pelvis around to get my leg moving through a bigger circle, but that's not hip movement. That is lumbopelvic plus hip movement. So I'm going to try to keep that pelvis really locked down, and it's going to move a bit, but I want this to be primarily my hip joint that's moving. So demonstrating again, seeing if I can do it a little bit cleaner this time. So I'm going to come into my single leg stance. I internally rotate. I start to sweep up in front as well as across the midline. So I'm sweeping up. I'm going to bring that knee as high as I can, sweeping up through center, straight in front of me, coming out to the side, rotating that foot as I come through, keeping the knee as high as I can, taking that knee out to the side as well. This is where you might lean, squeezing it back behind you. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Keep the core engaged, don't let your back get overly involved here. And then I'm going to go back in reverse. So I'm going to squeeze that femur bone, that thigh bone back behind me. sweep it up, out to the side. I'm starting to externally rotate my hip as my foot comes below me. I'm going to keep externally rotating, bringing that knee and thigh in front of me, coming all the way across and down. All right, and that is the hip car.